Ring, ring. Hello, ring, ring.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Hello,
Wow.
Hi, may I speak to Stu Snyder of New York?
Here I am. And in New York this time.
Stu Snyder of normally Tokyo, Japan, and now New York. Welcome to the Lipstick Podcast again, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you. It is always a pleasure.
Was that Summer Breeze you were playing?
Yeah, I was trying to nail that, I'm very good moving chords, but single notes I have always had issues with. But it's a great song and everything about it's just perfect.
It's a perfect song. It's been
You
covered.
remember when we were kids how that blasted out on the airwaves?
We're the same age. We remember it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Lipstick Pickup Podcast again, Stu. We promised our listeners when I podcasted with you, gosh, has it been a couple of months now?
I think it was, let me see. We're now in June, so it was April, right? Yeah, because I've been back here about a month now. So yeah, it was April, I think.
Episode 16 of the Lipstick Pickup Podcast was Sympathetic Strings with Stu Snyder of Tokyo. And there's a lot of different places that I publish my podcast, and I get mixed metrics. I get some from Spotify, some from Buzzsprout. And anybody in podcasting will tell you it's hard to get the metrics on them, but you do get downloads. And the podcast that I did with Stu Snyder was the most downloaded episode that I ever published on my hosting platform, Buzzsprout.
I did not know that. Thank you. I only check YouTube.
Golf clap.
Thanks, Emily.
And YouTube, I don't really have. I told you when I put it on YouTube that I don't really have any reach there, but yeah. I do like to put it there because I have to put it everywhere, And I'm not going to be the next Rick Beato or Beato.
Beato. Wait, hold on.
Yes, I'm not going to be the next Rick Beato, but I do put these things on YouTube. But Buzzsprout is where I get some of the best metrics, and it's also where I find out that I've got listeners all over the world. And the episode that I recorded with you was the most downloaded one. It's an indicator of its popularity because that means that all those listeners are the ones that downloaded it to a device so they could listen to it when they're offline. Not all people who listen to a podcast download. Did you know that? That's
most. Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes trying to understand your listenership a little confusing, streams versus downloads, but yours was the most downloaded, so congratulations.
Thank you.
But that's not why I had you on again. I had you on again because when we podcasted on episode 16, we promised that you were going to come back because we talked on that episode, we talked about Vinnie Bell and how you and I met and how you ended up in Tokyo and all these interesting things. So it was a while till we got to the strings. And I said, well, will you come back and talk about strings again? So that's what we're going to focus on today.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have a specimen Rickenbacker.
Yes.
That you have in your lab that you're going to tell me about.
Yes.
But first, I need to have a word from our sponsors. And when I say a word from my sponsors, I mean me.
Self-sponsorship. There you go.
I've been joking with friends that this is a listener-supported podcast. I am a music listener, and I have supported the entire thing. I've never asked for you to buy me a cup of coffee or a tip jar, to buy a t-shirt or anything else. Not that I have trouble with the practice, but I figured I should get my sea legs underneath me before I start asking for things. So but the last podcast I published was my 21st podcast. So it's full grown now. It's 21. But the reality is, for anybody who just started listening to my podcast, and you may know this, you may not, Stu, like all podcasts, amateur, self-produced. This is not a pro job here.
Mm-hmm.
Like all amateur produced a podcast. I got off to a wobbly start, and I published 50 podcasts before I really even knew what I was doing. And those don't really hold up to my quality standards anymore. So those have been unpublished. So while this last podcast that I did with Angie Moon of Coventry, England was my 21st podcast, it's really not. I've been trying to figure this out for 2.5 years. And I do everything on a shoestring budget. I have a very inexpensive microphone here. I use the platform Riverside to record my podcast, which is why I can talk to Stu in New York today. And I have tried not to spend too much money. I didn't buy a fancy studio or go to places that rent out podcast studios, but I have spent money on it, hosting services, and I had my website developed and stuff like that, but I've not asked for any kind of support. And now is the time that I would like to get into the merchandise game. So I want to talk to you
Okay.
and and my listeners about something I've got going. I've noticed that content creators of all kinds, whether it's a YouTube channel or a podcast, they have merch. I've noticed that Cocaine and Rhinestones, which is a podcast here in Nashville, he has a very strong merch game. If you go to his website, he has a lot of things, everything you want, from coffee mugs to shopping bags. He's got a book. And I thought to myself, maybe it's time for me to offer merch, which I can sell, and the profits can help reimburse myself for the money that I spent on equipment and hosting
Mm-hmm.
services. Is all I'm looking to do right now, is to sell some merch, to do these things. And I tried to think, well, do we need another trucker hat or a ball cap, Stu? What do you think? Okay. Do we need another t-shirt? I love t-shirts, but then I have to find out what size you are and all of that. So
And then they sit in the drawer forever because you got so many fucking t-shirts.
exactly.
I've, going into storage here since I've been back, and I was just like, I didn't know I had so many shirts. I've got to have over 100 shirts that I never wore. Maybe 20 of them I wore in my life.
It's even a trope. I bought the t-shirt. Hey, been there, done that. Bought the t-shirt.
Yeah.
I have a lot of great t-shirts. And I also have some great coffee mugs, but then I would have to ship those around and maybe they get broken. But one reason why I started thinking of clever merch ideas is that I'm very proud that I have a lot of international listeners. I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, but only 10% of my listeners, of my downloads and the metrics that I get, come from what is now my hometown of 20 years. Everybody else is from other places: New York, Los Angeles, Austin. I love Googling these towns and finding where they are, and Asia, Europe. And I thought to myself,
Galveston.
Galveston, all over the country. And so, if I want to have merch that's going to be easy to get around, I need something that's easy to ship. So I started thinking about my own personal style, and what I like is a strong neckwear game, as evidenced by
Not
if you've been watching the video on our podcast, you see that I'm very often wearing a bandana or some neckwear, and this one was my late mother's. It came from Tokyo. I believe this might have been a gift from my brother.
hmm
And a bandana is a kerchief or neck kerchief. And my mom always wore smart ones, and I like to wear smart ones. And I said to myself, that's what we need, a bandana. Then I went to research the history of bandanas, and I studied costume history in college.
Mm.
So I wanted to research the origins of the bandana, and guess what? They are from the same place of my fascination, the sitar,
India.
India.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Original bandani,
Huh.
which is a kerchief, neckwear, also used as headwear. And then they got appropriated because they started printing them in Glasgow, Scotland, and then they become a worldwide.
Paisley patterns.
Yes,
Yes.
Scotland. They started.
Hey, that's right, Lasse.
Yes. And that now this is what the world recognizes as a bandana. And I started thinking about this, and what is more rock and roll than a bandana?
I we're talking about this, and I have to say, there's three pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, the bandana. I think you're right because it goes across all genres of music.
Yes.
Sunglasses next,
Yes.
whether they be aviators or circular or wayfarers. Ray-Ban definitely has their feet in the rock and roll business or the
Yes.
country music business too.
I'm actually a Ray-Ban person since I was very young. I
I
love
love
them.
Ray-Bans. We can talk about Ray-Bans forever.
The company that owns Ray-Ban now is Italian, but they were a proud American brand, Bausch& and
Yeah,
Lomb, and they have their
yeah.
origins in the
And
United
before
States.
Bausch and Lomb, they were Ray-Ban. They were
Yes.
not. They were independent. But
Yeah. But anyway, so I started.
the other thing is the leather jacket, the black leather jacket.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there,
Okay.
but we're gonna start with the bandana.
Okay.
And I started thinking about all of the iconic. It's a country and western look. I started looking at rock and roll uniforms from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s,
Yeah.
well into the 80s. And what do you see? Kerchiefs,
Bandanas,
something,
kerchiefs. Yep.
bandanas.
Even the doo-wop,
Bruce, the
Italian doo-wop
boss.
groups in New York used to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes. You have the Crips, you have the
Yep.
Bloods, you have Dave Alvin, you have Axl Rose wearing his
Yeah.
headgear. A lot of other people do. Little Steven Van Zandt. Willie Nelson
Yeah.
is known for his bandana,
Probably most. Yeah.
also wearing as his headgear. And that's when I decided that a bandana was the perfect thing. I love them and they're useful. You can use them for things. They're multi-seasonal. Women, they're gender neutral in every way, and they're also age, doesn't matter, young and old. This is the most rock and roll universal thing that I could think of as something to represent myself. And if people want a way to support the podcast, you can buy this from me. And so my designer, Josh, who's here in Nashville too. He's my graphic designer. He's the one who helped me do the logo and the design work. I contacted him a couple of months ago and I told him about my plan to make a bandana. And we started working it all together and we came up with a beautiful print with a border. And it's not an everyday bandana, it's a bandano.
Does it have
Because
lipstick markings on it?
here's what we've got. I've designed a beautiful print that has and it doesn't have a glaring, ugly logo on it. This is intended to be a beautiful neckwear or headwear, and it shouldn't have a noxious logo on it. It's a beautiful, refined print of a beloved and deep cut Dan Letro model called the Pro One.
Oh, yes.
Some people
Yes.
call it the Toast
Yeah.
because of the way it's shaped. Modern day contemporary Dan Letro has just reintroduced this at the last NAMM with the original wood bridge. They've gone back to the original wood bridge and it's making quite a splash. And it's got some loyal fans out there, and that's why I chose the Pro One. So it's a repetitive print with the Pro One. I'm offering two colors, but they're going to be red or white. I've got a white one with red print. I've got a red one with white print, and you can buy a 2-pack or a single one. And I'm having these handmade in Nashville by the company who does this work for one of the legendary stores up here in 12 South. They are known for their rock and roll style. They're original gangster to the neighborhood.
Ah.
Bob Dylan buys t-shirts there. He's known for a t-shirt that was bought there. And they also carried the Willie Nelson signature trigger bandana, which is also made by the gentleman that I am contacting to make these. They're non-standard. They're bigger than a regular bandana, and they're also a lovelier, gauzier fabric, which is why they gather up nicely. This I'm wearing now is not the one that's being made because he's in much demand. It's going to be 4 months before they're even ready. This is one I bought it just so I can show people how lovely it is. And I went up there to buy a sample one just to make sure that they were really gorgeous. And I've really loved them. And I've been wearing this nonstop. But this will be the ones that I'll be selling. And I don't have the exact price yet, but if you go to Imogene and Willie and their website and you Google bandana, you can see what that general bandana costs, and that's about what mine will cost. And while I don't have a brick and mortar store, I had to pay Josh a fair wage to help me with the design work, to come up with the graphic designs, to send it to the printer, and all of these things. But we're going to be selling this thing. It's not a bandana. It's a
Bandano.
Exactly. And I know that people don't want a big glaring logo, so on the fine print on the corner, it's going to say the Bandano by the Lipstick Pickup,
Special
circa
Masonite edition.
1963.
Special
Hmm?
Masonite. Special Masonite edition.
Yeah, it's a Masonite guitar, and the present day Dan Electro is still building these out of Masonite and their equivalent. And the new ones have a wood bridge, but it's a beloved model. So I'm going to be selling those, and I'm going to have to take advance orders because people have been very interested when I've told them about this, and they say, I want one. I go, okay, great. Well, I'm going to have to do a pre-sale because I think that the initial shipment that I'm going to order, I hope to sell them out before they even arrive. So that's my plan. I'm going to be preparing people to give me an advance order before this thing comes out in 4 months. So thank you for letting me give a message from our sponsors, which is me. And
Self-sponsorship.
And if you love Dan Electro, I'm going to let you prove it with some neckwear, and it'll help me support the podcast. And I hope it'll be a fun signifier. Thank you for letting me talk about
Sure.
my new career as a fashion designer, Steve.
We'll get you
And
up here for Fashion Week then.
in the history of the podcast, too, and I want to say if anybody's been listening from the start or they're just picking it up, this is an amateur podcast. I'm doing it for the love of it. I do it on a shoestring budget. I do all of the work. I do all of the editing. The only thing pro on this whole podcast is my intro, and I paid a graphic designer to do that. And the wonderful musician Michael Weber Jr., who's part of our community, is the one who made the intro track. I want to thank him, by the way. I haven't thanked him for a long time. Michael Weber Jr. if anybody hears that clever intro, the lipstick pickup, he's playing that intro on like 7 different Dan Electro instruments. Michael Weber Jr. did that for me, but everything else I've done myself. And I know that it is amateurly produced, but I'm also not dumping in a bunch of garbage in there and ads and everything else. And I would like people to know that I have no ambition to be a podcast producer. What I want to be is a talent scout and a music journalist. I like to spend all my time talking to the Stu Snyders of the world. And I don't really like to spend time or money trying to figure out how to make a podcast look fancy or pro or anything like that. And I would like people to know that at some point, if any of these companies that produces podcasts who clearly are continuing to look for original, clever ideas for podcasts, if they ever want to pick mine up and professionally produce it, please call me because I would love to just be the talent. I do not want to become a Top Gun podcast producer. I find the work tedious and
Yeah.
not interesting. I want to be a journalist and I want to rock and roll all night and talk to Stu Snyder every day. I don't want to do all the other stuff. Like figuring out how to monetize it
I'm an
or
original Kiss makeup fan. I've seen them like 6 times, so that
yes.
was
Hey,
that was a good connection there.
yeah. Anyway, so if anybody's listening to this and they're like, wow, that's a really middle school amateur podcast, she should get pro. Yes, I would love to. Send the pros to me. I want to be your talent because my talent is listening to music and finding resources and talking to people. And I would love to hand off the podcast stuff to somebody else who might know how to expand my reach and interest advertisers. I'm not above monetizing this later. So if anybody wants to help me, hit me up.
Okay.
All right, enough from me. Thank you for the message from our sponsors. How long have we been recording so far? I haven't been keeping track, unfortunately.
I don't know. I never pay attention.
Whenever I talk to Stu, the time just flies like a bird. First, I wanna tell everybody that Stu was in Tokyo the last time I talked to him, and he's been in New York for the last month. I wanna ask you a couple of things before you get
Sure.
into what you're doing. Tell me what you've been doing in New York. Have you gone guitar shopping?
A little bit. I stopped into Guitar Center on West 14th Street just to see my GC Pro, my Guitar Center Pro guy there for pro audio equipment. So I picked up
Yeah.
a new microphone because what I like to do is pick some things up and have like singers I know test things out. So I have a bunch of stage mics that I've tested out on my own, and then I recommend them to people because I believe all lead singers should have their own microphone that works for them, not use the house mics.
That's a great thought.
Well,
I'm not
part of the reason is that you should find something that works for you.
yeah.
And, within 100, not, let's just say $90 to $150, you should find a decent stage mic that you can bash around that also sounds good.
And is also clean.
That was the next thing. Anybody who's played live, anybody who's gone to concerts, anybody who has gone up on, and most places don't clean their mics, at least not well enough. So no.
Keep your DNA on your mic.
Maybe that's how COVID really got transmitted, by stage mics.
I remember it. Yes.
But
Okay.
I'll go into a rehearsal space with somebody and put up 6 mics and say, okay, let's really try these out, jump around, do whatever you got to do. And then I'll lend it to them to perform with it.
Yeah.
And see what they like. When I get back to Tokyo, I've got 2 singers who I'm going to do that with, at least.
So I want to ask you about your visit to Guitar Center
Okay.
because I recorded a podcast with a young man who works at another one of their really busy stores. Where's the one you went to in Manhattan?
14th Street. They used to have one uptown, which was actually a nicer shop, but they closed that one in the Times Square area. I think it was. They closed that down for whatever reason, but it was definitely a better store. But the one on 14th Street's the first one in New York.
I'm I really I really hate how often Guitar Center is maligned in the comments section of America. I saw a recent interview with the CEO. It was something that popped up maybe on social media, and I kind of scanned it because I know something about what he's trying to do there because of the podcast that I recorded with this young man. And then all the comments, they were just hating on Guitar Center. And I really think that a store like that provides a very important function for people to go to. And I'm wondering, how you feel about it. You just went to that store and they're necessary, right? A store, you can go in
Well,
there and you've got all those things under one roof. And this is something that people need sometimes,
Well, it used to be, I'll say this, the one in Hollywood is the original one, and that's the best one. At
Yeah.
least, the vintage section anyway. The vintage guitar section is fantastic in Hollywood. The one in New York used to be good, but it's not really vintage anymore. It's got a lot more quote unquote, high-end guitars in there.
Yeah.
But what happened was, the expansion of Guitar Center and even Sam Ash, which always had a foothold in New York and New Jersey. The interesting thing was Sam Ash was very dismissive of the Guitar Center expansion. What ended up happening is they were opening up locations across the street from each other everywhere.
Yeah.
And Guitar Center basically put everybody out of business. And, even Manny's in New York, which was bought by Sam Ash just to hold on to the name and all that, that closed, but I think Sam Ash still holds the name. Sam Ash is now an internet entity. But basically, Guitar Center and then Musician's Friend, which they own, just put everybody out of business. And then through financial problems, they sort of became like a Tamar. So at one time, it was really cool. You could walk in there and get some pretty cool stuff. And I got to say, from a guitar player's point of view, and even a producer's point of view, because when you go to the pro audio section, it's not what it used to be either.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be able to try microphones out and some equipment and things, but it's like a Stop and Shop or a Quick Shop kind of thing now.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the guitar luthiers there and repairmen are pretty good. Whatever location. I have a friend in Arizona, and he bought a guitar over in at a location, I think in Maricopa County somewhere, and he said they did really good work. which great. If that's what they do, is sell your
Well,
guitar and set it
here's
up so you can get a quality, a well prepared instrument. That's fine. You
yeah,
know, I mean, I too much of the stuff you've got to wait for. You can't just at the same time as you can just walk in and get things. Too much you got to order and then go
yeah,
pick it up or have it delivered. So, when it first opened in New York, it was really, really, you could see why it was going to take over. But now I don't know how it holds on.
yeah. Here's what I want to say in summary, what I observe going into the one in Nashville is one of their busiest stores.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's right near all the recording studios in
Yeah.
Berry Hill, and I've bought things there, and now I have a relationship with Sean who works there, and I'll drop in there, and the place is always jamming, and it's full of young people and old people. You can see there's a lot of parents with
Yeah.
kids, and they're doing music instruction, and it's providing a lot of function. I think the reason why I got mad at the comment section of that story is that people were complaining about the way they got treated at Guitar Center, and I've had the exact opposite. Every time I go in there, I find everybody very friendly and helpful. And I've met many people there. And even before I met Sean, I went there to buy my mic.
Yeah.
Good. So that's why I like to defend. And I go, well, wow, I live right near one of the busiest stores, and I go in there and everybody's cool and everybody's super helpful and everybody's happy. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were. And of course, New York is a very different market than Nashville.
Yeah.
And there's all families all in there,
Yeah.
It's like because it's, and the people are taking their young kids there to buy a keyboard and this and that. And of course,
It's great keyboards. The
they got a,
keyboard section's phenomenal.
yeah, and keyboard.
Even the drum section.
Sean overlooks the rentals. A lot of people don't think about rentals, the business of rentals. And then the one reason why you might not be finding those vintage instruments in New York is that all that's gone online. And
Yeah.
now that I've noticed, Sean and I talked about this. I noticed that Guitar Center has a lot of interesting used Dan Electros and Silverstones.
Yeah, they
So,
do.
so they might not have that in the store. They might have it somewhere else, like you were talking
Well,
about.
I've noticed a worldwide change in the vintage market, even in Tokyo, which changed a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
you could find some pretty amazing things in Japan for a long time. And you could still get some things like now people are into these early 60s and 70s Yamaha electric guitars. And they're just super cool looking. I don't remember the model number, but they definitely had a take on things.
Asia is
Uh,
so fascinating to watch. And to me, Japan really is the country because I feel like Japan watches America in a way, you know what I mean? What Americans do. So why do you think that Yamaha's taken off? Is it the way that it looks or the way it sounds?
Yeah, and they have a new line of guitars too, which are actually very good. And they have them at two price points, so you can
Yeah,
get one that's more affordable and one that's a bit higher price. And Yamaha's always made really good, at least decent guitars, but even some really good guitars.
yeah.
Especially in the '70s when everyone was making shit guitars, they made really good guitars. Um, I'm not a big humbucking pickup fan, but the what do they call me? SG 1000, SG 2000 guitars that Santana used to play. Those humbuckers actually I really like, and there's
Yeah,
only about that and two other humbuckers that I like. Other than that, I could care less about humbuckers. I'm a single coil guy. But anyway, but
I endorse.
those old Yamahas are taking off because they're really cool and the colors are cool too,
Yeah, right
and they're
on.
pretty comfortable to play.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been hanging around New York and you are in your mom's house in
Yep.
Long Island,
And Great Neck. Yep. Right on the border of the city.
and you have access to things that you don't have in Tokyo. You got all kinds of strings in Tokyo. You brought them out and showed them to me during our podcast. Do you have more stuff in New York than you have in Tokyo or the other way around?
I'm not really sure. I got some boxes over here and over there I could show you. It's hard to tell. I think I might have more of some things here and some things there.
Oh, by the way, I told you when we were setting this up, I
Hmm.
went to Houston, whatever, 3 weeks ago, Galveston. I went to see my gents at Robin
Oh, hey,
Guitars. Are you
uh,
familiar with Robin Guitars?
a little bit.
Yeah, interesting American luthier operation. Although Jake at Robin Guitars tells me that the founder of Robin Guitars did not like the word luthier. He said, I'm a guitar builder, not a
Okay.
luthier. But anyway, they're beloved and they're rebooting and they're making new Robin guitars. And when I dropped in to see them, I told him about my chat with you and my chat with Dean Farley. And he goes, here's some strings for Stu. And I
Oh,
said,
very nice. Thank you.
you're going to have to come to Nashville if you want them.
Okay, just send me a ticket.
They're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Now, I
Do you know?
asked,
Do you know who made them for them?
I don't know. Let's see. It says Robin Strings, Fly Higher with Robin. Don't you know I love that because I'm all about the birds.
Birds.
Okay. It says it doesn't say who made them. Is that typical for somebody
Yeah,
or
yeah. But there's that. What's the name? I can never remember the name of the company in Nashville that makes strings, so they could have made it for them.
it doesn't say? Who knows? But you know me, I don't play. Hey, this is what I love. Look at the number on them. Do you
The
see?
Oh, it goes up to 11.
Yes. Shout out to my boys at Robin Guitars. Thanks for the strings. When I'm going to see Stu one day, I'm going to get up to New York is what I'm going to do. That's where we're going to rendezvous one of these
Yeah.
days.
Yep.
I'm going to bring these to you. I might
Okay.
mail them, but I've got them. I've got Robin guitar strings for your, what would you call you are a vintage guitar string collector.
Yes.
I've got something new for your collection.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So what else you want to talk about?
So you wanted to talk about the Rickenbacker?
Yes, I want to hear all about it. You were
Okay.
playing Summer Breeze on it. It had that great jangle. Let's talk about that, Rick.
Okay. Well, my friend, rest in peace, Jimmy DiStefano, also known as Jimmy D, was a major guitar salesman for Sam Ash, and he also worked at Grayson's before Sam Ash, I think. I'll tell you this, he had a funny story about Leslie West. Bernie Grayson wasn't the nicest guy in the world, so they were in the Manhattan location at the top of a staircase, packing up garbage, ready to throw it out, and Leslie West walks in, and Bernie Grayson goes, "Hey, help us pack the garbage up and throw it out." And Leslie West goes, "Do you know who I am?" And he goes, "No, you're fat and you're ugly." So Leslie West helped him pack up the garbage and took it outside.
Hey, I'm
So
a fan.
anyway,
Mountain.
yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm a Mississippi Queens.
I know, and it has more cowbell. Anyway, so he ended up working for Sam Ash, which is where I met him on West 48th Street when I was, I think, 15 or 16. Bob Capel, who used to manage that location, he threw us together because we were both left-handed players and we liked the same music. And really, he didn't want to deal with me, Bob. So Jimmy and I hit it off for many years, and we had a lost touch for a while, and then we regained touch. And unfortunately, he passed this around Christmas Eve a few years ago. But anyway, Jimmy, I think they put him back in Hempstead for a while, which is on Long Island. And again, this is during the golden age of heavy metal in the mid 80s. So they used to say he spit in the face of heavy metal and sold everybody a Rickenbacker, which he basically did, because everybody else in Sam Ash was selling Jacksons and Charvels and Kramers,
Yeah.
an occasional Les Paul. And you know, it's interesting. A lot of those older metal guys still appreciated the Gibsons, but nobody wanted. They all wanted, they went to Van Halen and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. So Ibanez also. So Jimmy wanted a guitar like Pete Townsend's. So back then, the tooling was such you were going to get close because this is really like the ace shape, and you can't really tell unless you know what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a center block versus the X bracing and a slightly thicker top. So when Rickenbacker started their reissue programs in the 90s, they started figuring out how to make the old styling a bit more sturdy. So, but anyway, what he did was he took the Rose Morris models, so double binding, but with a single binding neck. So he had basically a 360 or a 1993, it was called in Rose Mars. I can't remember the exact number. So they had a double binding on their 6-string and 12 strings in England, but he wanted the unbound neck, like on the 6 strings. So it's like a 12-string body with a 6-string neck, but a 6-string guitar. So, and this is also left-handed, so they did a reverse headstock. Okay, so he also requested the R tailpiece. I didn't want the R tailpiece. I wanted the more utilitarian one. So I gave him the R tailpiece, and I got one of these. Then what happened? Let's see. They did a run of 3. The first run of 3, and they did a second run of 3. But he bought the first 2. So I got the second one out of the 3 because he said the neck was just a little bit bigger. You could see. So then they did another run of 6, I think, for the stores. I mean, another run of 3, I think, I don't know. And did a run of 12 strings, which unfortunately I missed because I had the money then and I would have taken a 12 string without any second thoughts. So it was like this, but a 12 string with the Rickenbacker classical. It's not kind of thing. So that's the story behind that.
It's a beauty.
Yeah. And you can really get that, I don't know. Which was actually played on a 12-string, that song. But anyway, so that kind of thing. So you get all that jangle even on a 6-string. Sounds great in just about anything you put it in.
What do you think are the most iconic Rickenbacker songs?
Yeah, trying to be objective is hard on that one.
Yeah.
But Mr. Tambourine Man, The Byrds.
Yeah.
8 Miles High. Should Have Known Better. Can't Do That. My Generation. Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere. Can't Explain, because those 2 are done at 12 strings. There's a song, the very first song on the Who's first album, Out in the Streets, is just explosive. So, I mean, if you're a Who fan, you'll understand. But the average Rickenbacker person won't know that. But it's just really, it shows what you could do with a very simple guitar, a guitar that's not very powerful, but does have a presence. And what other ones can I think of? We could talk basses also. Anything from Yes, Chris Squire.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who was copying John Entwistle. He said the reason he bought a Rickenbacker was because of John Entwistle. John Entwistle used Rickenbackers for a very short time.
Yes, that's
He didn't like them.
So why did you leave that one in New York? Why isn't that in Tokyo?
Well, I'll tell you a story about that one. This was the only guitar I ever said I have to have. And if anything happens to it, there's no way of getting it there. And I used to take it out sometimes, try out equipment with it. And I got really, before I had moved to Japan was it before that or after? Anyway, skipping that. I used to carry a knife with me just in case anybody would try to fuck with me while I had that. And it got to a point where, you know what? I don't want to do this to people.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that position. I like to let people look at my guitars and try them out. And I've said to people, look, I don't mean to be a dick, but if anything happens to this guitar, it's done. And this guitar is now worth about $10,000 to $15,000. It doesn't leave the house. It stays where it's safe. So the only problem I could have with this guitar is if the house falls apart or there's a fire.
Yeah. Priceless, and probably it's priceless to you and also worth a lot of money. So that makes perfect sense. Leave it where it is. Take care of it, Mom.
And to me, I sort of, I see guitars in terms of how they sound and what they can do and what you can do with them.
Yeah.
Like we talked in part 1. So for me, an amplifier is more important than a guitar, although a guitar is more fun. You see, so if my Stratocaster disappears or gets destroyed tomorrow, I know I can get another Stratocaster along the same lines. I can have it made. Right? Fenders especially.
Yeah.
A Les Paul is a Les Paul is a Les Paul. So
don't tell the Les Paul guys that.
Well,
I'm joking.
Again, no, I know.
I get it. Well, it's a beautiful guitar. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing it. Are we ready to talk about strings now?
Sure.
So you got your phone. You're going to show us what you got there in your, I'm not going to call it your childhood bedroom, which is now a TV
Now a
room.
computer room for.
He's got a room full of strings. He's going to take us around and show us the strings that he's got. Talk to me about what you got there.
Let me try to switch the camera around here. Can I do this? Hold on. I can't flip the screen. Okay, we'll do it like this then. But just a quickie here. Over. Is it flipping around? There I am. Okay, so here, this is a Harry Joyce 4x12 cabinet designed by George Schultz. It's based on the Hiwatt 4x12.
Wow.
It's his speaker design, so it's everything that the Fane and the JBL was, only better. It's got the
Wow.
Sugarphone speakers. So that's just a little side note there. Sorry, I'm blurring up here.
It's all right.
In this box is where I keep a lot of strings, but I took them out. So coming over here, this is my big Rickenbacker stash and my Maxima string stash. So Maxima made the original Rickenbacker strings.
Okay, are these flat round
Yes, they
strings?
are flat
Okay.
wounds. Okay. And you can see here, I've got some unused product, shall we say.
Yeah.
And here, and I've got, let's see, are we in frame here? Because I can't really see.
It's not the greatest.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see
There
it.
we go.
I can see it.
Okay. Yeah, I can't flip the camera around for some reason. And
That's
here's
all
a
right.
whole bunch of assorted strings from England I have, UK, and what else have I got here? Some old Gibsons got in here by mistake. I told you about this string in the last podcast. This
Okay.
is the old Rototop string. This is before Rototop became Rotosound.
How old are those?
Oh, this has got to be from the 50s, maybe even the 40s. Who knows? But let's see here. These are, sorry, I got to improvise here. These are like gold plated or something. Yeah, it's very tarnished.
Wow.
These are flat wounds. And Jason Howe's father, I can't remember his name, but he was very innovative in string design. Let's put it that way. So these are in the no sell batch. And I showed these to Jason Howe, a picture of him when I was at NAMM last time, and his eyes bulged out.
Who is Jason Howe?
Jason Howe runs Rotosound in
Oh,
England.
okay.
So James Howe, that was his father, James Howe. So you could see here. So I have not tried these, and I'm not going to. If I had another set, that's something else.
I'll tell the listeners now we have SNYDER to thank for connecting me with Dean Farley, who I've done 2 podcasts with, who's a string designer,
Yeah.
the walking encyclopedia.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Dean unknowingly kicked off the vintage string craze.
Don't tell him that. Just kidding.
Oh, he knows. I told him. And he didn't know it.
I learned a lot about alloys.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, I learned a lot about alloys in my chat with him, and I don't know if you've listened to our second chat, but
I haven't. I will later.
I wanted to talk about Hartley Peavey because I find Peavey Electronics a very fascinating story, and he knew Hartley. What is your opinion of Peavey amplification
Well,
stuff?
when I was starting out, the local kids got Peavies because they had tubes in them. This is around the time when people realized, oh, you know what? We don't like transistor amps.
Mm.
So there was a big movement in the 70s, I think it was, late 70s, to go into transistors.
Mm-hmm.
And they really didn't sound good. There was one company in England, HH Electronics, who made a really good transistor amp. Other than that, I mean, when people plug into a Roland Jazz car, whatever wattage, I just wince. They're just horrible sounding amps. But anyway, so PVs were affordable and they offered a lot. They had built-in reverb. You could overdrive, you could clean, you could fuzz, you could, some of them even had phasers built in or choruses built in, I think.
Yeah.
But the earlier PVs, like the vintage series, were actually pretty damn good. But, you know, technology and budgets and all that. So things change over the years.
Well, the thing that I love about my non-musician status is that I'm an independent person.
Mhm.
I don't play music, so I can just listen to opinions, and there's a cult surrounding PV. Some people love them, hate
Yeah.
them, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, that's why I'm just interested in opinions. I'm not saying anybody's is right or
Right.
wrong, and I have no right to them. That's what I love about the fact that I don't play music. I have no right to an opinion.
Ah, so you're neutral. PV
Yes.
knew how to target a market.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we
And
recorded our whole podcast on.
you got to hand it to Hartley. He started with what, 2 pennies in his pocket
Yes.
and turned it into what it is. And he was in the center of like Ku Klux Klan County, you know?
Yes, I'm from Mississippi. I know
Yeah.
all about that area. And
So here's something though. It was in the 90s or something. I saw a clip from an amplifier or a vintage guitar show, and he had a shootout with a vintage Marshall, and the PV blew it away, and half the people walked out of the room.
I've never heard that story. I'll have
Yeah.
to take a look at that.
Yeah. I don't know where to find that. It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
Stu, when I asked you just a reminder, when I asked you when we were going to talk again, you had a couple of corrections that you wanted to
Yeah.
run. Don't do it yet. We'll do it at the end. But
Yeah.
we're dealing with a lot of facts and figures, and sometimes I say things that are wrong, or I had an idea of something and that was wrong, and we're like any other news organization.
Yeah.
We want to run a correction, and apparently
Sure.
Stu realized in our last podcast he said a couple of things, and at the end we're going to run a correction on a couple
Yeah.
of things. But there's so much information to take on; it's like a water
Sure.
hose.
And when you're recalling everything,
oh my
just like
goodness,
you don't
my
have time to think
goodness,
about it.
yeah.
Very quickly, let's show everyone
Yeah.
the Gibson stash here and the pyramid stash. So
Yeah, pyramid strings. I loved learning about them.
So that'll be a correction I make. But here, so you can see the bags I got, and I just saved them. It's amazing they didn't disintegrate. And then I got vintage Gibsons. I stocked up on the Sonomatics because, I didn't want to be without them. These are like my favorite 6-string round-wounds. I send a few of these every now and then to Terry Reed, who unfortunately is going through cancer treatment right now. Did that show up?
Oh, the picture?
Yeah.
Yes.
Strings? Okay, good. So I even have a rare Epiphone pack here, which was, just Gibson repackaged the strings for Epiphone. That's all.
Yeah.
So
Gibson was an original string man, an original string? Okay.
And I wish they never closed their Elgin, Illinois plant because, for one thing, it kills the employment, the job market there. But they really had an important role to play in strings, Gibson. And they made, I don't have a catalog here. It's in Tokyo, but I have a 1972 catalog, I think. And the thing with Gibson, I realized, is they tried to come up with string sets for every possible player of every style and every type of guitar they had, and bass. And I don't think any other string manufacturer tried to do that. They just tried to come out with, gauged sets.
Yeah.
But with no real goal in mind.
Yeah.
And if I look at the old Fender catalogs or even the Rotosound catalog, which is an interesting thing, the way Rotosound strings changed over the years. But Gibson was really the only string company that was that meticulous. Now, whether or not you like the quality or the sound, that's a whole other thing. But, just for a historical point of view, the first two companies to really get into string gauges and try to focus on the needs of the player were Rotosound in England and Sterling Ball in California.
Yeah.
When Jimmy Page first came to America, he walked into the Sterling Ball shop and he saw all these strings of different gauges. So he bought a whole bunch of super light gauge strings and said he never looked back.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I don't know who did it first, if it was Sterling or if it was James Howe. But, when Hendrix was in England, he couldn't get the Fender strings he wanted, and James Howe was really aggressively getting them the in players of the day. And Hendrix told him he wanted his strings so thin he could bite through them. But he didn't go that thin, Hendrix. He went on what became normal, like 10s. Anyway, because that's what Fender had for the rock and roll set. But anyway.
Right on.
So I could show you this, which is pretty interesting. I used to talk with Dick Denny the designer of the Vox AC30, and some of the color sound and the McGarry's effects. He sent
Hey,
me a whole
Stu,
bunch.
where is your mic that you're talking into?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You want me to put the headset on?
No, I don't want you. I just want you to mind the mic. Is
Okay.
where is it? Is it on your?
It's on the phone, so I can put
Yeah.
my headset back on if you want.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay.
You see, you're moving around and you're moving away from the mic. So.
All right, let's make this a little better here. So anyway, I used to talk with Dick Denny a lot, and he was full of stories. He told me the time he met Groucho Marx in London. I got a whole bunch of transistors from him.
Right on.
So these are vintage transistors from Mullard and Texas Instruments that he didn't use. So he gave them to me to use in Fuzzbox projects. Oh, man. I mean, I could keep going with all of this stuff. I mean, it's crazy what I've got here. Vintage Grovers, which I haven't finished restoring. Grover tuners from the 60s and 70s, I think. Oh, man. You know, I thought I prepared pretty well, but, you know, as I look at this stuff and I'm talking to you, I can keep going. We can keep going. So maybe we can do a part 3.
I want you to come on over and over and over again.
Okay.
And I also know you're not in your normal setup at your
Yeah.
home and everything. This is like a field recording. And he's using his phone, and I'm sorry that we don't have a pro camera there showing you everything. But
And for some reason, I couldn't flip the camera around. I don't know why.
yeah, it's all
So,
right.
anyway.
It's a field recording.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the corrections.
Yeah. Okay. So starting at the beginning, I left New York on February 2nd and arrived in Tokyo on February 3rd, 2002.
Oh, you are a stickler.
Yeah.
You wanted to get the date right on the day you arrived in Tokyo.
Yes, I said I arrived February
Correction
2nd.
number 1.
Yeah.
What day did Stu arrive in Tokyo?
February 3rd, 2002. I left New York on the 2nd. That's just from me, my head, you know. Anyway,
I want you to go listen to the last podcast I recorded with Angie Moon, and she talks about numerology, and she talks about February 3rd and 4th. I know that you're a believer in these kind of date timelines. She starts talking about February and 3rd and 4th and how often these dates come up and some of the things that she's working on. She is a classic rock historian and a true crime. She really knows her true crime stuff, and she's written a book that combines rock and roll and true crime. But I wanted to tell you, you said that February 3rd, you were talking about that February 3rd.
Maybe that was the crime. I arrived in Tokyo.
You're a date guy. You and I talked about that. You know, you talked about our birthdays and the meaning of all this. But anyway, go back and listen to it. She talks about February 3rd.
Okay. Send me a link.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Okay. So I was talking about Carnaby Street Shops, the Carnaby Cavern, and Ben Sherman. I didn't know Ben Sherman. I got him confused with the owner of the Carnaby Cavern, which was, I think the guy's name was Dan Benjamin, not Ben Sherman. Yeah. And I do remember hearing a conversation. They were talking about Ben. So that's where I got confused. So I believe it was Dan Benjamin. If anybody from England is listening or London was listening who was around at that time and used to go to those shops, please chime in. Anything that you and I discuss, if anybody finds some discrepancies, please let us know so we can get it right.
Yes. Our accuracy is job one.
Yes, accuracy is of utmost importance.
This is the point of my whole podcast, is accuracy and giving credit where credit is due.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are really bad about giving credit.
And people don't like being told they're wrong, which, okay, but, you know, it's better to be wrong so you can be right later on, you know? So
that's why I appreciate you embracing the corrections idea, because I have to correct myself all the time.
Oh, self-correction, even better.
It's the best kind.
Okay, next one was the McGarry's. You spelt it M-A-C, capital M-A-C, capital A-R-I-S. It's not Scottish, it's Italian. It's M-A-C-A-R-I, apostrophe S. McGarry's of London.
Oh.
Very famous instrument shop, created the first outlets for the Tone Bender fuzz box. Okay.
Killer.
So, and Dick Denny used to do a lot of work for them. Gary Hurst worked for them for a while. So all these fuzz box people were with them.
Yeah.
Joe and Larry McGarry, they were cousins. No, they were brothers. I'm sorry.
Tell me how you spell it.
M-A-C-A-R-I. It's a Northern Italian name. C-A-R-I.
Oh, that's an unusual name. I'm sure
Yeah.
that if the captions were wrong, it
Yeah,
had
that
to
was a
do with
caption.
it was a AI generated caption.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
I failed to. I did not know that we had to correct that, but
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
it happens a lot. I don't edit my podcast much, but I do try to make sure all the names get spelled right, but it is tedious work.
Yeah, it is.
And I I got to tell you, Stu, that the podcast that I recorded with you, I had a lot of names to look up because I didn't want to have to call you and
You
ask
should
you this.
call me back. I have no problems with it. Don't
No, but
worry.
I do like to try to, but that one slipped through. But you dropped a lot of not names
Yeah. Okay.
and knowledge and
Thank you.
knowledge. I
So
didn't mean that in a.
I
I'm
know, I know,
joking.
I
I'm
know,
joking.
I
But you
know.
dropped. I had to look them all up when I was correcting the captions. But
Mm.
anyway, so that's my mistake. That's my
Okay.
correction.
Well,
Thank you.
we'll share them because it's us together. We'll share them. Okay. So my father, when he moved back to New York, before he moved to Long Beach, he lived in Queens for a while, and he graduated from Martin Van Buren High School, as a side note, but he went to Queens College. And while he was at Queens College, there was two famous, soon-to-be famous songwriters there before him, Paul Simon and Carole King.
Yes.
He didn't know them.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually fascinated by this because I'm a big fan of Paul Simon and both of them, obviously. But Paul Simon, people like to hate on him too.
Nah.
He did this, he did that. He did that to Steve Berlin and all the stuff about Let's Live This. I'm like, please stop telling me that I should hate Paul Simon. I love Paul Simon.
I'm going to tell you a story, a little story.
Yes.
I used to go into Colony Music, which is now, they got like an indoor flea market there. It's in the Brill building. And a couple of years back, I went back to New York and I walked in. I was like, I had a heart attack because the Colony Music was gone. It went online, I think. But I started getting familiar with some of the staff there. And there was this guy, George, who was a black guy, about 5'8", super cool guy. And he knew everybody that used to come in there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other guys who were there forever told me, like, you know, like the guys who moved to LA, when they'd come back to New York, they'd always stop in. So they told me Jeff Barry would stop in and Phil Spector would stop in. Mm-hmm. And what was really funny, and I don't know how this is going to go over, they said Phil Spector was all right. They said Jeff Barry was weird.
Okay.
Anyway, George told me about Paul Simon, and I was having discussion with him, and I was young then, so I didn't quite have it together, I guess. I said, Paul Simon's got more causes that he gets on board for than cancer. And he said to me, Paul Simon's a really beautiful human being.
He is a beautiful human
being. And that didn't take away from my love or respect for Paul Simon. In my view, I thought, you know, you can't argue with a songwriter like that.
Yeah.
And Paul is very discerning, and we all have an opinion on what good music is. And when you have the skills Paul Simon has, you can be even more discriminating.
Yes.
So shut the fuck up.
This is an adult show. Here's one thing. I started fixating on Paul Simon. He was my father's favorite songwriter, which, oh, big deal. But my father was born in 1921. He was older. He was well into his 60s, very hip to the things he was doing in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. When Graceland comes out, Rhythm of the Saints, my father was a senior citizen listening to this music. Mm-hmm. And one thing I realize is it's the quality of the lyrics. Mm-hmm. And my father was a World War II veteran, as we've discussed, and he had diminished hearing. And I am convinced that Paul Simon's exquisite use of percussion is the reason why my dad really loved those records. Rhythm of the Saints. You can feel it. Right. Mm-hmm. And my father was hard of hearing, which is when we would go to church in his later years. We had a big pipe organ in the Episcopal Church. He liked to go sit up next to music director, Dr. John Paul, and sit on the stool with him so he could feel the music. Yeah. And I am convinced that one reason why he loved Paul Simon's music of that era is the exquisite percussion. You know, don 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 don, and even when you think about 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover,
I love that song.
Listen to the intro. What is it?
Interesting.
Yeah, drumming.
I just saw a friend of mine from high school. I hadn't seen her in years. She's gone very far in the music business here, and the same drummer, Steve Jordan. Yeah, was Steve Jordan or Steve Gadd? I can't remember now.
If you listen to
but whatever. Anyway, that was that Steve Jordan was playing with her, but I can't remember if the drummer on 50 Ways to Leave Your Love was Steve Jordan or Steve Gadd. But anyway, that's
But
incredible drumming.
Paul Simon is the
Yeah.
boss, and he's the composer and
Yeah.
the songwriter. And if you listen to all of his solo music, it is incredible percussion. And lyrically, I know that's why my father loved it, because it is extremely intelligent songwriting. And one thing that he liked to talk about, still likes to talk about lyrically, is the issue of faith. And, you know, when he talks about faith, and I think I listened to Graceland, and I know how much my father loved that record, and now I know why. But my father wasn't 35 at the time. My father was in his 60s, pushing 70 when that record came out, and it connected with him. And that's why none of these Paul Simon haters can convince me that I should hate Paul Simon. And I want to point out, because you're a Vinnie Bell guy, but you know, the song Sounds of Silence, that is Vinnie Bell who turned that electric with the Belzuki. You know
that's true.
Yes.
That was an overdub too.
Vinnie Bell playing a Belzuki on.
Yep. Let me just check something here so we have information correct here. Just
but
one
you were
thing here.
I'm sorry to jump you down a rabbit hole, but you were talking about Queens College and your father.
Yeah. Just quickly, Steve Gadd played drums on 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, not Steve Jordan. Anyway, but that... Yes. Yeah, so my father went to Queens, and probably unbeknownst to him at the time were Paul Simon and Carole King taking classes there. They were, I think, a year or two ahead of my father.
Yeah.
So, because they're both older than my father. So, not by much, though. But anyway, next correction was...
And raised in Queens, too. I believe that Paul Simon and maybe Carole
Paul Simon was from Forest Hills or Kew Gardens, which are right next to each other.
Yeah.
If you're driving through, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's a really nice area. Tudor-type houses, that kind of thing.
I've been up there, and it's beautiful. And that's another thing I like to point out about Paul Simon's ear for international and world music started early. If you listen to, what is that song? It's like a Colombian folk song. They sing it, the Simon and Garfunkel covered it.
Celia?
No, but Celia is his composition.
Yeah.
Didn't he write that song?
I think he did.
The other one is... Anyway, it'll come to me later. But if you think about the existence that Paul Simon would have had at Queens, it was all about the 7 line, right? And
the 7 doesn't go out to Queens College. The 7 stops in Flushing.
No, but what I'm talking about is when the reason why people were leaving Manhattan and moving out there. Are you?
I know why. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then those. In the 20th century, those areas start becoming racially diverse, okay?
Yeah.
And Jackson Heights starts being populated by Indians in the 40s.
Before that, even black people started moving in. Jackson Heights was once like a really tough Irish neighborhood.
Yes. But in the 50s and 60s, I've spent a lot of time. One reason why I love to talk to you about Queens is that I love Queens.
I used to drive around there just looking at things.
I've spent a lot of time there, and also reconstructing the musical legacy of that. Louis Armstrong, where did he live? Corona Heights.
Yeah.
The reason why he wanted to live in Corona Heights is it was an integrated neighborhood where you had Chinese, Hispanics, and
a lot of
Blacks.
Hispanics. Yep.
And it's been that way. If you go to Corona Heights now, if you go to the new Louis Armstrong Museum, what you got placed next door is a Dominican restaurant.
Yeah.
It's still that way.
Yeah.
And Queens has its own ethnic story, just like Manhattan does. And I think it's an interesting one, and I think it made a big imprint on Paul Simon.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
In his music. So Queens.
No, Queens is great. I love Queens. I really.
It's a wildlife wonderland. Do you know that? Have I interested
the Queens
you?
Botanical Gardens over there.
All of them.
I used to go in there when it's at the edge of Flushing by the Long Island Expressway. So when I was a kid, I used to go in there sometimes.
Queens is a birder's paradise, and I continue to try to use my podcast to talk about gear and music and to get people interested in bird watching. And my dad I'm going to remind you again, my dad wrote this book about bird watching and he broke
Birdman.
record, the Birdman, and a lot of the birds that he cited were in the Jamaica Bay wildlife
Yes, back then
area.
there was a lot of wildlife over there.
It's bigger than it used to be in the 70s when my dad was tracking birds there. That natural preserved, it's a conservation effort.
Yeah.
Jamaica Bay,
Yeah.
the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Preserve was just getting started at that point, and now it's grown to be a lot bigger thanks to the city and state of New York and
I didn't know that.
conservation efforts. 2 years ago, I took the subway. All you were telling me about all the way out there toward that area of Long Island to Jamaica Bay. I took the subway all the way out there 2 years ago and went bird watching in Jamaica Bay,
Wow.
and there is no one around there, and there is a beautiful skyline of Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to get on the subway and go bird watching before you leave New York.
Okay. I think I could do that.
It's beautiful. You go along the marsh and you can bird watch on the subway, egrets and all kinds of waterfowl in the marsh. And you go all the way to the Jamaica Bay stop. And in my father's bird watching book, he talks about finding a bird there, and we're talking about what a wonderful conservation effort it is, and that you can see some amazing birds there and you can get there on the subway. He holds it as a high example of urban bird watching. You can take the subway there.
Okay.
Jamaica Bay Wildlife Preserve. There's
Didn't know
nothing
that.
out there. It's
No.
incredible. It's
Okay.
hey, sometimes you can just take the subway, grab a pair of binoculars, and you can just take the subway out there and the subway back. And it's all marshland because of all the aviation and everything going on around there.
Because it's near Kennedy Airport, so yeah.
And also, what is the other airport that Southwest flies into? LaGuardia. It was all marshland before. I love New York, and it's still a birder's paradise and a natural wonderland. And where you are there in Long Island is a great place to do it. I need to get on Hey, how long are you going to be there? Maybe I need to come up there and take you bird watching.
Probably till August. But if my visa comes through sooner, I'm out of here, so.
Yeah, Stu is working with what do you call these?
The
What
band?
do you call your immigration status and your visas and all the.
That's God, yeah.
Let's get Stu back to Tokyo, but maybe I haven't been to New York yet this summer. Maybe I'll take a quickie trip up there and
very quick. JFK used to be Idlewild. That's what it was. That became JFK Airport.
Yeah, it's a natural wonderland out there.
Yeah.
And another bird my dad saw when he broke the record, he got off the plane and went to the end of the runway, and he saw one of the birds and then got on another plane and left and flew back to Jackson, Mississippi.
Just for a bird.
Yeah, he was writing a book about it. It was published by St. Martin's Press, and the press from the Wall Street Journal to Time Magazine to Charles Kuralt were hot on his trail. So this was not a small thing he was doing. People in Jackson, Mississippi weren't paying any attention to him, just like they don't do in Nashville to me. But this was a much bigger deal than what people think it was. But he was breaking very meaningful records, and he did a lot of it in New York. And he also consulted the Natural History Museum right there on Central Park all the time.
Wow!
So
impressive.
I love New York.
Me too.
I'm a Southern girl, but I love New York.
You know how many Southerners moved up to New York after the Civil War?
A lot.
Yeah.
It's called the Harlem Renaissance.
Yeah, and a lot of them
it is the reason of the Harlem.
A lot of them moved down to Brazil, also.
Yeah, but the heartblood of the Harlem Renaissance as a movement is because of blacks being on the run from the Jim Crow South.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm talking the white people who moved up north after the war. No, I know about the Harlem Renaissance, but a lot of Southerners who. I don't have to tell you the history, but a lot of white Southerners moved up to New York after the war because they were in, finance and that kind of thing. And they were going to lose everything if they stayed in the South.
Well, the migration of people from brutality of the agricultural South to towns like Philadelphia and New York and Boston
Hmm.
is a legendary migration. Just
Yeah,
like a lot of these people came in and then they went down south for opportunities. So
sure.
the migration of people is fascinating, and I
Yeah.
am one of those people that I would love to migrate to New York if I ever hit it big as a podcast star. If I become one of those podcast stars and I can write checks for things, I will see you in New York because I love New York City.
Okay. We're going to have to change your accent, though.
No, because one reason why I love New York, Stu, is that when I operate in the city, people tell me they like the way I talk.
Okay. Then keep it.
Because
Amp it up, actually.
I don't talk like a hick, but I am from the South. And
Yes.
whenever I go places, the second I get off the plane, everybody in New York, everywhere I go, says, I like the way, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? They all want to know where I'm from. And that's why I find New York to be one of the friendliest cities on earth.
Yeah.
And they do like the way that I talk. I've always been, I like the way you talk because it's different. I
Hey, I
like New
like the
York.
way you talk.
Exactly. I like your New York accent. And, but I got to tell you, Stu, one of my biggest fantasies is to live in Jackson Heights, Queens.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yes.
Okay. It's cheaper than
D-
Manhattan.
It's a lot cheaper, and
Yeah.
it has one thing that I love: diversity.
Yeah, you'll
Jackson
definitely get
Heights,
that in Queens, too.
Jackson Heights is the most ethnically diverse place in America, and it's been that way since the 1980s.
Yeah.
If you go to the city areas, it's known as the
I
most
used to work with some people who were Indian from Guyana, I think. They were Indians from Guyana, and
Yeah,
they lived in Jackson Heights.
Jackson Heights.
And
They've
I knew
always
Bangladeshi people who lived in Jackson Heights, too.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I had an Airbnb for a while, and it was one of those, you'll understand this vernacular. It was one of those row houses that you see in Jackson Heights. Jackson Heights was a planned community. So you have garden style apartments, and the homes are are row homes like you see in England. Everything was very Anglican. You see,
Yeah.
sort of what is the town? Forest Hills is
Yeah.
planned. It was planned by
Yes, it
urban
was.
designers, and it was planned to be. That's why they built the village, and it looks Tudor
Yep.
style.
That's
And
right. Kew
it was
Gardens also, and they were both named after neighborhoods in London.
they were all planned garden communities, and
Yes, they
Jackson
were.
Heights is a garden community. And I've been staying in an Airbnb on one of the streets there, and I was staying in one of those lovely row homes. And this couple had turned the top floor into a gorgeous guest suite with a beautiful bathroom, high pressure shower, and heated
Mm-hmm.
towel bars. And I was renting that place for a very good deal. And LaGuardia, which is how I get there because I usually
Yeah.
fly Southwest, you could walk to the airport.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but so it was a quick stop, and I love staying out there because I would hop on the 7 train, which goes straight to everywhere I want to go in Manhattan.
Yeah. Put you right in Midtown Manhattan.
And I started having a dream of buying one of the condominiums in one of those lovely garden developments,
Mm-hmm.
one of those 100-year-old apartments. They're garden communities.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they all have the same plan. It's a community, and then they have a central garden in the middle, and then they have gates, right? It's like London. It's very
Mhm.
Anglican, and that's why I love the architecture, and also the gardens in Jackson Heights and the churches are absolutely incredible. I think it's one of the prettiest communities in the country, and I can get to Manhattan in 20 minutes. And when I started spending a lot of time there, I said, this is where I want to live.
Yeah.
And I still want to.
I used to walk around Kew Gardens and Forest Hills late at night, and I'd see the most amazing things.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you
So,
and New York's right there, and I just love it, and that's why I love you're in Long Island, and so I'm gonna get to New York, and I'm gonna come out to Long Island.
okay.
I'll show you some of my favorite places in Long
Okay. You
Island.
do that.
I mean, when I say Long Island, Queens, Long Island, to anybody who doesn't understand, it starts, goes
Well,
out and
Queens and Brooklyn are on the Long Island landmass, but they are not part of quote unquote Long Island.
yeah,
They are part of New York City. And
yeah.
actually, part of Great Neck on the southwestern section was at one time owned by Queens. And some of the addresses will tell you that because the numbering system was different. So Great Neck or the city sold it sometimes, I think, sometimes shortly after the war, I think.
And what is
And
Rockaway Beach? Rockaway Beach is
Rockaway Beach.
yes, and I think it's the prettiest beach in the area. I don't like
They
to.
the Ramones were from Queens.
Yes, they were from Forest Hills.
Forest Hills, yep. They
Yeah.
were all Jewish except for Dee Dee.
Yes, but Rockaway Beach. Have you been to Rockaway Beach recently?
No, I haven't been there I don't even know if I used to go to Long Beach a lot, so I don't even think I was at Rockaway Beach because when I was a kid, it was very high crime.
You need to go back there. It
Yeah.
is beautiful. They
I'm
had
sure
to
it is.
see. They had to rebuild the whole thing after
Yeah.
Sandy because it ripped the shit out of the boardwalk.
Yeah,
So
I know.
everything is new, and they got music playing, and there's great restaurants all over.
Take the A train over there.
You can take the subway there or the ferry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another reason. And I'm like, wow, look at this beautiful beach. The water's crystal clear. It's gorgeous.
If they
So-
cleaned up the beaches on the southern coastline from Queens and Long Beach and Jones Beach, I'd be really impressed because it was dirty.
Whenever I go to New York, my friends who live in New York are always like, you know New York better than I do, or we do. You get out more. And well, of course, I'm there traveling. So
Yeah.
people who live in New York are living their lives. And that's why I come and I'm traveling. I'm going out
Yeah.
and going to all these places.
It's funny, Japanese people I know who moved to Tokyo, who aren't from Tokyo, they say you probably know Tokyo better than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exotic to you, and you've
Yeah.
made the point of learning these places. So.
Sure. So anyway, let me finish with the corrections here.
All right.
So Peter Stuart Coleman of Retro Fred Vintage. Stuart spelled the same way I am, so that was probably an AI generated. It's STUART.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
I talked about the strings from Dan Electro, and I said something about them being made in Red Bank. They could have been made, or Tom's River. They could have been made, if they were made by that company in New Jersey, they could have been made in Red Bank or Tom's River.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Also with Pyramid Strings and Paul Bilhuber, the owner of Pyramid Strings is Max Younger, who's a very good friend of mine. Paul Bilhuber was responsible for bringing them into America. So I said he made a mistake, and I said the owner, Paul Bilhuber, the owner. No, the owner is Max Younger. And Max is a great guy. He'll do anything for you.
All right.
So
thank you.
They're my corrections.
And some of those were my corrections. And thank you for the reason to say this. If I slip up on a spelling of a name, it's not because I'm not trying, but it's just so much to do. And so thank you for that. So
thank you.
We had another killer chat.
Yeah.
I always like talking to Stu SNYDER.
Hey.
Hey.
All right. Now, thank you very much, Emily.
I think that in our first podcast, we talked about the pairing of a loud New Yorker and a loud Southerner, and that it was perfect.
Definitely.
We're the Mason-Dixon line.
That's right. The Snyder-Vardaman line, as you said. Okay.
Well, maybe I'll try to get up there to New York, and I'll take you bird watching and to eat some Indian food.
I never say no to good Indian food.
Yes.
It's like saying never saying no to a good cheeseburger or Mexican food. It's the same.
I wish I was there. We could go have Indian for dinner tonight. Hey, Stu, thank you so much for your time. You're a great member of our community. People loved our first chat, and I hope they like our second one.
I'm sure they will.
What are we going to talk about when you come on next time?
Oh, what do you want to talk about? We can talk about just about anything, but we should keep it more guitar focused
Yes. We'll get into some stuff. We'll talk music.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
So this is Emily Vardaman Walters with the Lipstick
Mhm.
Pickup Podcast with Stu Snyder, sometimes of Tokyo, sometimes of New York. We hope to get him back in Tokyo very soon.
Yep.
And thanks for coming on again and spending your Sunday. It's Sunday here. I brought something for you.
Yep.
This is my Episcopal prayer book, and I want you to. Ever told you that my middle name is Money?
No.
It's true. My middle name is Money, and it was also my father's middle name.
Uh-huh.
And it's printed on this prayer book, Emily Money Vardaman. So thank you for spending Sunday
Sounds
with
pretty
me.
wealthy.
Do you feel well? It was actually we were of modest means when I was growing up, but I had a godfather who was prosperous, and he was also a judge, and he's the one who bought this for me. Everything I
Yeah.
ever had that was nice was given to me by my godfather. But
No.
when I got confirmed in the Episcopal Church, he gave me an embossed prayer book, and it says my
That's
middle
great.
name, Emily Money Vardaman. So I was. I'm recognizing that it's Sunday, and I appreciate you spending your Sunday with me.
Oh, any time is fine. Days don't matter to me.
Hallelujah, brother Stu Snyder.
Amen.
I can't thank you enough for coming on and again, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you too, as always.
Okay,
To
say
be
goodbye.
continued, as I say.
Yes. Say
Thanks,
goodbye.
Emily.
I'm hanging
Bye.
up. I got my
Okay.
phone. Bye.
Bye.
If you hear excellent tone and the sound of birds chirping, it means you've made it through an entire episode of the Lipstick Pickup Podcast. You're as free as a bird now, but I hope you'll join me again soon. Comments or questions? I can be reached at emily@thelipstickpickup.com.